This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bishop, and with me today, as always, is Sam Stepanenko.
Hello.
And Trish Coughlin.
Howdy.
And we're going back to school today. Way back.
Even though it's August, we're going back to school.
Yes. It's actually good timing. By the time this airs, it actually will be right about back to school,
Yeah,
won't it?
it's our back to school fan challenge. And if you're listening, Neil, fuck you.
Yeah.
Royally bad.
What's wrong with you?
Like, okay, I challenge you guys to do Class of 1984, and he knows we suck at casting young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a struggle.
Yeah,
This was probably my toughest casting so far.
Yeah, it's a big cast, and I'll admit I've got a lot of people cast, and it's not even half of the amount of people I need to cast for this film.
Yeah, I think I got the key players, but it was a slog. So usually casting comes to me like 15, 20 minutes. I have it all done. This one was an hour and a half.
Yeah, mine was a bit
Yeah.
of a slog, but I had one while I was watching the movie, and once I had that one, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I know my angle, and we'll get to that later in the show.
Me
here.
too. I had one. Just
Yeah.
one that came to me.
But it informed my whole angle. So,
Oh, nice.
And then at that point, it informed my casting.
Now I'm real curious.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to see what you came up with as well, because I will admit I had trouble coming with an angle, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, well, my angle came to me kind of in that last half hour.
Well, the last half hour is a completely different movie.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is.
This is a movie with an identity crisis.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, Neil, thanks for this. But at the same time, this is Canadian exploitation movie. Canucksploitation, which I think is great.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's not a bad movie.
It's actually a half-decent movie.
It's just
I did enjoy it.
given the subject matter and the context of the film, it made it really challenging to consider a remake.
Yeah, well, and mainly because we've had lots of these kind of school movies where you have this really terrible school with terrible kids, and you've got
And
two
the motivated
sides of-
teacher.
Yeah, the motivated
Yeah.
teacher, and it goes two ways. You got the one that redeems those unruly students,
Yeah.
and then the more revenge type movies like The Substitute.
Yeah.
Might I
so
say-
we've got a lot of them.
And this may have
Yeah.
been the first of them, though.
This could have been,
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's way earlier than either of those particular movies.
Well, like I say, the more enjoyable one, which was Teachers with Nick Nolte in 83, 84.
Yeah, so this
That was really good.
That was really good, but again, this still predates it.
Yeah.
Right.
That was kind of rolling around in the back of my head. I'm like, do we really need another one? Do
No.
we really need another one?
But at the same time, we haven't seen one like that in a while.
Yeah.
Right, this was very much a late '80s, early '90s phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right? Well, mid '80s to early '90s phenomenon, right? So it's a genre that maybe is due its time.
Yeah, and it obviously did well enough. It spawned two sequels, direct-to-video sequels. I don't know if they're any good, because they're both set in the far-flung future of 1999.
With robot teachers. So they go a little different way than this one.
Oh, so you looked into it a little bit?
I did look into it. You have Pam Grier as an awesome robot teacher.
I kind of wanted to watch them, but I just didn't have a chance this weekend to watch anything for fun.
And it looks like Mark Lester was also directed
Yeah.
the first of those sequels.
Yeah.
Well, what I did for my fun watch in conjunction with this was I watched the Tales from the Crypt with Perry King called Came the Dawn with
Nice.
him and Brooke Shields. It's really good.
It's funny, I just started rewatching some Tales from the Crypt recently, so
You'll get to that one.
I'll get to it. I'm only a handful in so far,
Yeah.
but when I started watching them, I'm just grinning ear to ear. And I think my Facebook post said, "Happiness is Tales from the Crypt."
They're so of their time, but they're just goofy fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing goofy about this movie. I remembered it being more trauma-esque for some reason, and the last half kind of is, but it starts off as a pretty strong drama.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you've got the unruly students, the new teacher who's really not sure what he's getting into, despite the warnings from other teachers about what the school is like.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's being run by this small gang, really. They focus on this one gang, but they really do make mention of other ones as well.
Yeah, it's just this is the one that's targeted or is antagonized by our lead character.
Yeah.
Right? And they've targeted him because he's not putting up with their shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's not falling in line and looking away like the other teachers are.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when the movie opens up with a teacher with a gun in his briefcase, it sets a tone.
It definitely sets
Roddy
a tone.
McDowell.
Roddy McDowell,
One of our regulars, apparently.
A broken Roddy McDowell.
Yeah. Roddy McDowell from Fright Night episode 45. Also, this movie's story and screenplay was written by Tom Holland, who actually wrote Fright Night and Child's Play. And Mark Lester also was involved with the screenplay along with John Saxton. They did, and they're Canadian-bred filmmakers.
Yep.
Happy Birthday to Me and Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS, which I had to write down because that was just awesome. And then there's Barry Schneider, who was also involved in the screenplay, but given how the final product was super violent, he wanted his name taken off of it. So he is an uncredited screenplay writer. And Mark Lester was also the director of this film. He directed Firestarter and Commando. That's really as good as it gets with Mark. After that, we get some gems as a writer, as a director, and a producer of these films. Some gems like Sand Sharks, which we talked about in our shark episode.
I know.
Dragon Wasps.
Oh my god.
Jurassic Attack. And Poseidon Rex.
Yeah, he's moved into that sci-fi knockoff when a big film coming out kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because, I mean, he's a competent director. I mean, when you look at the Firestarter and Commando when they came out, I mean, those are films that are products of their time. It's not that they're bad, poorly directed, or they're even bad films. They're just
he's moved
dated.
into the quick cash.
They're fun. Like I don't know. Commando I enjoyed, and so did I. I enjoyed Firestarter. Firestarter actually has like a lot going on there, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, well, you've got great source material there, so yeah, that you have to give more credit to that source material than anything else. And speaking of Firestarter, isn't there a remake in the works for that we might have to talk about soon?
I believe so.
I'd have to go listen to our remakes in the works episode, but I think it was in there.
Yeah, I think there is.
And we might have to do an update on that because I'm sure there's plenty more.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's plenty more.
So this movie stars Perry King, Mary Lynn Ross, Timothy Van Patten, Roddy McDowell, who's starting to become a mainstay on our show, Stefan Arngrim, and Arngrim, yes, as Drugstore. I still don't know who that is.
Drugstore was the drug dealer one, the one who had the eye patch, the drug addict that had the eye patch at the end.
Okay.
He gets burned.
Yeah, I didn't cast him. I wasn't sure because when you look at IMDb, you're looking at them as adults if they have a picture at all. Because in some cases, this was their only
there's
movies.
a few of them, and I didn't see any pictures, so I didn't know who they were.
It was a really tough time trying to figure out who was who as far as attaching names to faces. And this one was not one of those, though. Michael J. Fox in a very early role, right around the time Family Ties was starting. You probably shot this just before Family Ties.
That's what I was reading. It was like very shortly after this that he got cast as
Family
Alex
Ties
Eaton.
premiered that same year, 1982. Yeah.
So he was on the cusp, and they were talking about like Mark Lester. He thought Timothy Van Patten would be the big star, and Michael J. Fox was like, no, go behind the camera, and it was the exact opposite.
Oh, no kidding, right? Yeah, and then there's Keith Knight, who's Barnyard, the tubbier of the gang, but also the strongman, which was kind of weird.
Wasn't he Fallon?
No,
Fallon was the sort of muscular
okay,
one,
let's
with the really
Yeah.
bad red boots.
Yeah. So rounding out some of the casting I've got here, Aaron Noble, Robert Reese, Al Waxman, Lisa Langlors, and if you want to, I'm gonna mispronounce it the way I want to. Thank you very much. And David Gardner.
Yeah, Al Waxman, a Canadian treasure, King of Kensington.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And this movie is kind of considered a sort of a cult classic because I've read a lot of.
I can see why.
Yeah, apparently there's a radio DJ who waxes on about this film regularly, or used to wax on about this film regularly, because it really is hard to take your eyes away from it when you start watching it. It's really well acted, for the most part. I mean, there's some weaker performances, but
I'd say one of those is the Stegman character.
Oh, Timothy Van Patten. He was probably the weakest actor in the whole bunch.
Yeah, when he's supposed to be the big heavy of the movie. Comes off kind of cheesy, but I don't know. Like,
it seems they were trying to do something with him, because like at one point they have him playing like this concerto, so it was supposed to be sort of this underlying thing where he was a psychopath, but a brilliant psychopath.
Yeah, no,
and he was too pretty boy for that group.
Well, that's just it. I think he all of his compatriots in that gang were very punk, and the punk movement was really big in '82. Although
totally misrepresented in this movie.
Thank you. I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, I don't think Mark Lester knows what punk is. He got a little bit close in the club scene, but for the most part, I don't think he knows what punk is.
This was almost more new wave than punk,
right?
Yeah.
I'd say that as well. But at least with Stegman's character, he's this privileged kid, really smart, but is not wanting to achieve that at all. He's gone into business for himself in many ways, shapes, and forms in this school, as a drug dealer, as a pimp, and just controlling every facet of what's going on in this school as far as crime.
He's highly like a psychopath and a sociopath.
Yeah.
Like, he knows how to manipulate everyone. Like his mother's an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, and he's just in this completely enabled environment.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't say boo about him.
He obviously can't go full punk because he's trying to maintain these two personas. But as soon as I saw him, I'm like, you don't look like the leader of a gang. I would have beat you up in school, and I was one of the nerds.
Yeah, well, and I think, I mean, the whole thing of it is he wasn't one of those guys who got his hands dirty. He had other people to do it for him, right?
Yeah, he was more of a Charlie Manson-esque type of character.
Because, I mean, Drugstore handled all the drug transactions, and Fallon was the guy who sort of handled their sex trade, right? And then you had Barnyard, who was the muscle, right? So you kind of had that dynamic there where he was kind of the leader, and I don't know what Patsy was.
I think she
token.
Well, I don't know. I got the feeling that she may have been handling the girls as far as... I think
she would have been, she was recruiting.
Yeah, I think she was doing a lot of recruiting.
She was doing part of what a lot happens, actually, I guess, from a lot of pimping, is she's the bait to bring girls.
Yeah, well, when that one girl comes in to audition for a job after that other guy gets turned down, and they ask her to strip naked, like, she really wants to be the one to test her out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, she had a purpose. I mean, and she certainly she kind of goaded them into certain actions as well. She was very much a catalyst for a lot of stuff they were doing.
Yeah, she was
she had Stegman's ear.
Yeah, well, you don't see it, but I would say maybe that was the girlfriend of Stegman's, as closest to a girlfriend that a psychopath can have.
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably the closest it gets.
Yeah, because
I mean, almost probably both psychopaths.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. There's no question that she was damaged.
There's nothing inside. Nothing inside.
No. There's I mean, clearly, I mean, you Barnyard was sort of your big dumb stupid guy. He just sort of took direction from wherever you wanted to go, right? And then you had everybody else. I mean, Drugstore sampled his own wares, so he was. I mean,
he's going to be easy to manipulate as well,
right? And then Fallon, he liked violence.
Fallon liked violence, but I think the other thing too is he liked being part of a group. I don't think he really cared who it was.
That's exactly it. Yeah,
right. He's just a lot of the times these guys, they didn't want to be alone. Being part of the gang was the gang. Like they didn't.
But that's high school gang mentality anyway.
True.
I mean, I can relate to that from my high school experiences too. And the few guys that would hang out, they were useless when they were by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
I was alone, but oh well.
Well, it's one thing to have friends in school, and then another thing to be able to interact with other people without feeling like you're lost, right? If you're
being used, because I'd seen that sort of dynamic too, where people allow themselves to be used as long as they can be part of quote unquote the gang.
Yeah. Now this movie opens with text saying based on a true story, which isn't really the case. It's based on news articles that Mark Lester had read and like the worst case scenario type of school reportings that I guess 82 would have. So he's taking his inspiration from some pretty dark places, his articles, and then stitching this
like
into
Nightmare
a
on
movie
Elm
together.
Street is based on a true story because it's based on an article.
Well, apparently the Al Waxman's Detective Stawinski, forgive me if I get this wrong, but apparently his stuff was pretty much verbatim from a cop he was interviewing.
Yeah, he did interview him, and there was that whole thing where it's like, unless like you have to have an ironclad case against a juvenile.
Yeah, and essentially that's all that the detective was really there for, was to dictate the law. In that movie, he didn't really serve much more function than that.
No, he didn't really. I mean, he almost represented an unwilling roadblock, right? He's like, I want to help you, but we've got nothing.
Yeah,
right.
But it's also to kind of point out, it's like there is a purpose to the rule of law, but unfortunately, it can become impotent in certain cases. It's like we want to do more, but it's just unfortunate.
And that was something I actually appreciated during the film, the principal and the detective as well, and the viewpoint from their desks is like, we can't do anything without concrete evidence. Sure, you found those drugs in the bathroom and those guys were there, but did you see them throw it? Did you see them deal it? No, he didn't. And that's where things get really frustrating for our lead character, Andrew Norris. Yeah. And I get it. And at the same time, I'm watching this movie, I'm like, poor guy, because the principal's not wrong.
The principal's not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, that bathroom scene is actually one of the scenes that I'd like to keep but change, because as soon as he pulled that baggie out of the urinal,
I know, right?
I
don't remember him washing his hands.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I knew just watching. It's like, well, that's useless, because who knows when it was there, when it was dropped there.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I already knew what the next scene was going to be, because common sense dictates that if you can't prove that it was theirs.
Yeah. Well, you can't change it too much, at least not in the context of the way the film is right now, because Arthur is now becomes this catalyst of possibly being the witness.
And I must get rid of it.
And really struggling with whether he should say anything or not.
Right. I mean,
and getting attacked for it too.
Because the other thing about it too is Arthur, this, like when you're talking about gangs and being part of a group, Arthur is very vulnerable. I don't think he doesn't have a strong group he can be a part of. So as a lone
he's a band
person,
geek, right?
Yeah,
and that's not a bad thing. But
as a lone person in high school, you are vulnerable to vicious people.
Yeah, and in the end, the gang's attempts to keep him silent are what makes him talk to be in the end.
Yeah.
So,
which is not atypical, actually. That's very common.
He was totally scared enough to stay quiet, and then they attacked him, and the worst did happen. Well, almost the worst happened.
Yeah.
He almost got killed.
Yeah.
And at that point, I would
what
just be
are you
angry.
gonna lose?
Yeah, at that point, I'd just be angry. Well, they're going to kill me anyway, so fuck it. I'm going to make sure they go down.
Yeah. Might as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's exactly, like I was saying, is that's exactly what realistically you expect to have happen.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, well, I was keeping my mouth shut and you guys didn't believe me, so fuck you. I'm gonna rat. You think I'm a rat? I'm gonna rat.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, if you're gonna kill me anyway, I might as well make it worth my while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not gonna kill me for free.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you down with me. Right?
Yeah. Well, they're always around listening when Arthur's around a teacher or the cops, and
they're misinterpreting it.
And they're misinterpreting everything he says. So it's just, oh God.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, they can't even hear it. They just see him talking to the cops or a teacher.
Well, they make it look like they're trying to listen in, but they obviously can't hear shit.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, let's run the trailer for this, because we're already like 20 minutes in. We're obviously raring to go, so we'll talk some more about this on the other side. And, oh, Alice.
Class of 1984. Class of 1984. Their only goal is power.
I run this school, man.
Their only law is survival.
If you want to survive around here, you have got to learn to look the other way.
Their only allegiance is to themselves.
Still believe in all that bullshit that holds it together.
I pledge allegiance!
Wise. Should have done me right. Like this. Hey, look what he done, man! He tried to kill me.
Somebody's got to stop this insanity.
Or you simply cannot afford to fail this class. Now, what is the answer?
I am the future. I am the future. I am the future.
But you've taught before and nothing like this has ever happened.
All right, I got to deal with it. Who's going to protect you? Some more later.
He's one man trained to deal with students, but they've pushed him to the limit. They've gone too far. Now he's going to give the class of 1984 the lesson they deserve. Class of 1984. Is this the future?
Take a look at my face. I belong to the future, and the world belongs to me. Take a look at my face.
Oh, Alice. Alice. That song sucks.
It's not good.
No.
It's not good at all. Even if you're a fan of Alice, you cannot justify this song. You cannot find any redemption for it at all. It's just a bad song.
Yeah, right?
You can't unhear it.
No, and the movie opens with that music, and I'm like, oh man,
And ends
I hope
with
the
it.
rest. Yeah, it opens and ends with it, and I'm like, I hope the rest of this movie isn't as bad as that song is.
Well, it's just like this, and it's just the weird opening credits where you have Perry King driving and this song playing over it, and I'm like, oh no. I was like, what am I in for?
Well, this is why it was a fan challenge.
Yeah.
Right? Well, and if you are doing a movie that centers around a gang that's focused in the punk movement, why would you use Alice Cooper?
No, especially when you had Teenage Head actually appear in the movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
Teenage Head should have been...
Yeah, they should have been doing that. Well, a better song, but they should have been doing it because, they had actually proper punk band in there.
Well, yeah, and like if you're going to use Canadian punks, use a Canadian punk band. Get a Canadian punk band to do your theme music.
Right.
Exactly.
They may be punk, but they might sell out for a little bit of money.
Well, I'm sure they did.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So they were in the movie.
They were in the movie, so they already sold out.
Yeah.
And shamelessly, I mean, they had their big Teenage Head banner behind them. That's nothing wrong with that. But I do want to talk about the representation of punk in this movie, because as somebody who was involved in the punk scene of the early to mid 80s, this was actually almost offensive to me.
I knew you was going to really bug you when I was watching it.
And I mean, not just the look, but punk rock was not a mask for crime. It was disenchanted youth and disenfranchised youth rebelling against the establishment, their poverty, the lack of resources for young people. This is not what these guys were doing. These guys were basically baby mobsters.
Yeah, they were dealing drugs out of their little teenage club, punk club, and hookers and
all sorts of garbage. And it's like, what the hell?
And I mean, I know that there are different aspects of punk that where people have gotten into these types of things, but not organized like this. The whole thing about punk was not being organized.
Yeah. The only thing that seemed legitimate was just that part with the band in Teenage Head and the people slam dancing.
That was the only thing that was even remotely accurate representation.
It's because they hired real punks and real slam dancers to do that scene.
Yeah.
They were really getting into it.
I don't know much about punk, but what I do know is that myself would never properly survive a proper mosh pit.
Well, I got to say, Stegman barely survived that stage dive. I'm like, whoa, that was probably the worst stage dive I have ever seen in my life. He barely missed the ground.
And he didn't look like he belonged there. He was so out of place.
Because he was new wave. I mean, the way his clothing, his hair, everything was new wave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Barnyard certainly could have passed for a punk.
Yeah.
Junkyard kind of crossing that line between punk and new wave.
Patsy was dependent on the day.
Did totally depend on the day, yeah. But she was still inclined more to new wave, the bright colors and stuff. That was more new wave than
At
punk.
one point, she was Gem in the holograms.
Yeah.
Oh, with that big flare thing off the shoulder and
like the eye makeup, and I'm like, she's gem turned bad.
Yeah. No, she was one of the misfits.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, you're totally right about that.
Yeah, and Fallon, again, more new wave, leather pants, leather boots, right? Yeah, no, that's not, it wasn't punk, and it did kind of pull me out of the story a little bit.
Killed him to do one goddamn mohawk.
But see, when you think about it...
Well, they did it in the last half. Again, we're talking about that identity crisis, right?
When you think about it, too, maybe that was part of the major problem of this movie. Like, it should have been new wave. It should have been like that 80s sort of slicker, more... like, that's what
technically fits Stegman more.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Giving his home life and the way
more
he
capitalist,
looked.
more...
Yeah, absolutely, and that would be a change I would make, is I'd move it away from that punk scene and maybe more towards that new wave, Flock of Seagulls, Duran Duran type of scene.
Yeah, you know what? And when I think about it, I would still keep it as class of 1984.
Oh yeah, you can't change the setting because
I might mess with what that looks like, but maybe an alternate reality 1984. But I like the setting. I mean, you could certainly update it, but why? We got a million movies like this now. And as I said at the start of this podcast, so
and I mean,
I think the setting's kind of what makes this work in some regards.
And school violence is such a sensitive subject.
It is, yeah.
Right? And that's one of the things that we have sort of be very cognizant of in making a remake, is how sensitive a subject it is.
For sure. And for me, like, I don't know, growing up, like, we all kind of grow up, like, some of us are younger, some of us are older, in the same area where 1980s, that entire decade for me is defined by slimy asshole high schoolers. That is all the movies I saw.
I mean, I was still in that elementary school, just maybe going into junior high. It would have been 84. Yeah, no, I would have been 11. So I was still in elementary school.
Yeah, I was 10
during that era. So, and which was just fun.
Yeah, but I mean, I still saw a lot of like even John Hughes movies. There's always that slick, evil, like, sort of...
There has to be the antagonist, right?
Yeah, that's what the antagonist always is in my head.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's what Stegman was supposed to represent, was the sort of exploded version of that character, the slimy rich kid.
Well, Pretty in Pink... Yeah. This is James Spader or Stegman. That's the two.
Yeah. I mean, they even look alike. When you were to think about it, like the hairstyle and everything was very much the James Spader look too, right?
The same outfits, essentially.
Was this maybe a dark version of a John Hughes movie?
Well, I don't know that John Hughes had come into sort of popular consciousness at this point, because this is 1982. This is kind of, right?
It might
this
be
is
a little too early.
Really early. Like, that's one of the things that
only 2 years later was Breakfast Club, I think, wasn't it? And 85 was Weird Science.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it was all. I know I was in my. I don't know. I guess, because I'm thinking that I'd have to look, but I think that John Hughes sort of really hit popular consciousness shortly around the same time or shortly after this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a little bit after.
Yeah, certainly not at a time where it would have influenced this movie. That's what I'm trying to make. Is that's
but I'm wondering if that influenced him.
It may have, right?
Yeah, that's likely. Well, maybe anyway.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility, especially the Stegman character, right?
Yeah, I don't even know what the box office of this was. The budget of this movie was actually fairly high for 1982. It was $4.3 million. But I mean, it's a pretty robust cast as well. So
I mean, because you have a couple of reasonably well-known actors of the time. I mean, Perry King and Roddy McDowell in there. They both went on to do a lot of stuff, and I mean, Perry King was already it was about to start doing Riptide.
Yeah, I was about to say, I didn't know when Riptide started.
Yeah, but it was around that same time, right? And he'd been in some pretty significant films, not necessarily significant roles, but he'd been in significant films, right?
Yeah.
So,
and an incredible jawline.
Oh,
Did you notice his jaw?
Yeah, no, there's a reason
Incredible.
that he was getting cast. I mean, he's a handsome guy, right? And a very good actor. I mean, he's maybe one of the more underrated actors of the 80s.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I always liked watching him.
The school in this, by the way, was later used in Black Christmas.
Nice.
Another Canadian.
I think wasn't also the police station?
I don't know. I only read about that, so I don't know what it was used for.
Okay. I think the police station too. So that's kinda cool.
Given after this movie, I don't know why the school would let it out again, because I guess when the schools came back in, all this like really raunchy graffiti was still on the walls because they had trouble removing it. Eventually got it down, obviously, but
they probably had to paint over it.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
A couple of times.
Which probably accounted for the budget.
Yeah, and you're right. A lot of the budget probably would have been in the sets and the set decoration, because there's a lot of detail. Like there's a lot of attention paid to the way it looked.
Apparently, the only set that was built for this movie was the auto body shop scene. Everything else was on location.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. But I mean, like, Toronto school, I thought,
well, you don't want to
shop?
accidentally burn down the school.
No, you really don't.
So I can see why maybe they didn't want to do that.
Yes, that was probably good thinking on their part.
Yeah. There were stunts involved in that scene as well, with the driving into...
Oh, with the car that crashes down.
Yeah, where, what was her name? Patsy drives the car, trying to run down Norris. And she runs into a car up on jacks, and it falls down on top of her car. And
well, she takes out Barnyard at the same time.
Yeah, she runs over Barnyard and takes herself out at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least she survived.
Yeah.
We think. We assume she might have.
I don't think she did.
Squealed on her in her death throes.
I don't think that she did survive, because they talk about how there were no witnesses. So
she probably didn't survive.
Nice.
Yeah. Can we talk about that? Oh man,
that last half hour.
Well, just that last statement. It's like, really, you had to put that in there.
Well, that made me think of like a story I'd read about of a quote unquote unsolved case. There was this guy. I don't know, it was in the States, like in the late 80s or something, and he basically just terrorized this town for years and decades, and people sort of just put up with it until one day he gets shot like a few hundred times by appears to be 18 different weapons, and not a single person in town saw anything.
Quote unquote.
And it was
saw anything.
It was Main Street in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So that's what that meant to me.
And I suspect that it probably did, but it just didn't carry very well.
Yeah. Well, this one was interesting because after all of the stuff that happens at the end of this movie, and pretty much everybody in that gang dies. Yeah. I mean, yes, nobody sees most of it. And except for maybe that last scene when the guy comes crashing through the skylight, and there they are. If anybody looked up, they could see who's on the other side of that skylight looking down.
But that's the point. There were quote unquote no witnesses.
Yeah, and I think
all they saw was somebody falling.
All they saw was somebody fall through the skylight, and it wasn't somebody I was particularly fond of, so I don't really give a shit.
Well, and they don't know the situation of how that happened in the first place. They weren't up on the roof.
Maybe he was committing suicide.
Yeah,
we don't know.
But it is that was such a weird statement to put at the end of the movie. But at the same time, it closes off those thoughts of you just killed a bunch of kids that were under adult age.
Yeah, and I think that was what it was intended to do. But I think that if they'd have at least quoted the no witnesses, I think that would have given that context that Trish was just bringing up, that it was voluntarily not seeing. It was basically closing their eyes to the whole situation because these people were so horrible.
Yeah, they're like, finally this problem is taken care of.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of kids would have, especially that were in that music class he was teaching, were going to shed a tear for old Stegman.
No, because he terrorized that whole school for 2 or 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah. It'd be funny if at the end the whole band's like dun 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 dun. They have the instruments. They can do it.
Yeah, that would have taken a very serious movie into a completely different place, Trish. But yes, that would have been fucking hilarious.
I want to know if they won that competition.
Yeah,
I know, right?
Speaking of competition, did you know that Timothy Van Patten actually composed that piece they were playing?
Yes, I read that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I suspect that he probably really was playing the piano during that scene as well. So, I mean, he may not be the best actor, but he's very talented.
Yeah, well, I mean, he played that piano beautifully in that scene, and I did kind of like that scene because you get that moment of he's still being a dick, but
there's more to him.
And did he really want to be in that band thing? But at that point, the teacher didn't really want to have anything to do with him. So, right. But you kind of, because he's mad when the teacher turns him down.
Yeah.
I think it's all about manipulation on the part of Stegman.
He wanted to get closer to him. He didn't want to be part of that. He just wanted to use him.
Yeah, but I like the ambiguousness of that scene.
Yeah, I do too, because I mean, if you could have played it even a little more differently, so it's like he really did want to be, because he wanted to be accepted in the school.
I wouldn't have minded just a moment of regret there.
I think it was one of those things. It was what the scene was trying to do was to kind of point to the deeper part of Stegman. He wasn't just a thug. Everybody else in his gang were basically thugs. They were all thuggy idiots, but he was the leader for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think they were trying to show his intelligence and talent and so on, and it worked. It worked in that sense, but I think that it could have been a lot even more powerful if, as Jay said, there's this sort of sign of regret that he didn't actually get in, because he really actually did enjoy the aspect of playing music, and the arrogance that he has. He wanted to play it in public too, right?
Yeah.
So that you'd have that kind of juxtaposition of love the music, but I'm also a real arrogant prick, and I want people to see me doing it.
Well, there was a weird tiny moment when you see kind of Patsy along the sidelines, sort of gobsmacked that he's playing this well. Like she has no idea.
She has no idea. There's that he has more depth than being sort of this junior criminal mastermind. Mm-hmm. And he's very smart. I mean, he figures out ways to. He's very smart at ensuring that he's never caught with his hand in the cookie jar.
Oh yeah, that's why he has all those other people around him.
Yes,
to get their hands dirty, because he doesn't really participate in anything directly. He's that smart.
Yeah. You never see him handing off drugs. You never see him really getting his hands dirty. Yeah.
Even in the final 30 minutes, I mean, there's a couple things there where you do. Right, but for the most part,
did he participate in the rape?
Yes, he did. It was one of the most.
I thought that was that was about the only time you really see him.
And then the very final confrontation there, but
he's smart enough not to, but he's more than willing to do so.
Well, he's more. He becomes more unhinged if he thinks he might be losing any status.
Yeah.
He's that much of a narcissistic sociopath.
And things are coming off the rails for him. And I think you're right. I think that he had gone past his tipping point and had lost sort of a lot of his rational thought, because now he's in a position. He's put himself in a position where they've produced evidence in the form of a photograph, right? Which they were very careful not to do, right?
Yep.
So he's become so obsessed with bringing down Norris that he's breaking all his own rules.
Yeah, and I think he was quite willing to sacrifice himself just to get to Norris.
Yes. Just hated him that much, and I that's what that piano scene where he's playing piano. That's where you tie that all together. It's like he's looking for the approval from this teacher. For some reason, this teacher he wants the approval from, and I think probably because he's not afraid of him, right? So there's that kind of that juxtaposition. It's like, oh wow, this is a father figure. This is the guy who maybe I'm looking for, but
he's rejected
but
me.
He's rejecting me, right? So you could really create that tension.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and really, Norris didn't even give him a chance at the beginning of the film, because Stegman his gang goes where he goes, so they hung out in his classes, and if those guys are getting booted because they're not in the class, then Stegman's going along with them. I mean, most of it's Stegman's choice.
Yes.
Yeah, because he doesn't have to.
Once Norris has got him pegged, he just doesn't want to deal with him after that. He's like, no, you can go do whatever you want. I'll mark you absent, but I don't care what you do, but you're not coming here.
Yeah, I'll mark you as incomplete. And that was another great piece of dialogue there. It's like, you're done, right? Yeah. You'll get, I'll mark you as here, but you're going to get incomplete, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, by that point, Stegman had already fucked with him a little bit. They graffitied his car and visited him later that night.
And had they firebombed his car yet?
Not at that point. That's later in the film when it escalates, but him and his wife were coming back from something. What did they do? They had the masks
they sprayed
with the fake theater blood.
Yeah,
the fake theater blood, which is a pretty ominous threat, really.
It really is. And I mean, I would have maybe handled that scene a little bit differently too. I mean, there's little things that don't play as well now as they might have back then.
I see. Those are the scenes I really like because they're insane.
Yeah,
and that's what I kind of grabbed onto. I wanted to grab onto the more insane aspects of this movie. And like, well, you know what? We got all sorts of really poignant movies about this sort of thing. Let's make a really... What did people comment about at the beginning at this movie in the 80s? Was the violence. We could trump that these days.
We certainly can. We can...
I really wanted to go just all-out grindhouse with this movie. And you can still make the same commentary.
You could probably make it better in a lot of ways. Like I said, I would focus on that on
because I think that's what makes this movie a cult movie. I mean, there's plenty of movies that make the same point a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, largely using this as a model, mind you, but At least I suspect that this was the model for a lot of those films. But I've already mentioned that. Never mind. But yeah, I'd really like to focus on. I think we've gone in kind of different directions because I wanted to really focus on that dynamic between the two of them, where he's really looking, where he's kind of hinting that he's really looking for the approval of his teacher.
Sure.
So, but I mean, we can also go the other way. I'm okay with that. My choice of director went the sort of the more dramatic direction rather than
mine went Grindhouse.
Yeah.
Nice.
I wanted to embrace some of those just surprising aspects of the movie that really kind of woke me up.
Yeah.
When I guess it was Fallon. Was he the first one, the one that gets impaled on the saw blade?
No, that's Drugstore.
Drugstore. Okay, yeah, Drugstore. Who's
really? Drugstore was burned.
You're right. It is Fallon.
Okay, I thought it was Fallon.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and he gets. There's this fight in the wood shop, and it's a circular saw, and first the teacher cuts off his arm, and then just drops him spine down onto the circular saw. I'm like, holy Jesus, did this movie change?
Like I said, that's the whole identity crisis. We went from this really great drama with a few shocking moments in it.
Yeah, there were some here and there.
And if you're talking Grindhouse...
I mean, I guess it changes during the rape, but the rape's not really super visual, per se. We get that full nude scene with that student, which was enough. Yeah, the rape is disturbing enough.
It is disturbing enough, but
even without being too graphic.
Yeah, you don't really get that real tone change until that moment.
Yeah. But the one moment when you're talking about like going Grindhouse with this, that was actually one of my instincts with it. When he's got on there, he's got his arm. I'm like, God, I kind of want to see him beat him to death with his own arm.
Yeah.
Like, I really wanted to see that so much.
Yeah. So when I saw that scene, I'm like, it all clicked into place, and I'm like, oh, let's just take it into hobo with a shotgun territory. Let's just make this the worst place on the universe.
Ooh, but speaking of making it like real Grindhouse, you can make it violent, but also like have like those moments where they're trying to do the serious filmmaking that they sometimes do. Like the Grindhouse films.
Those would be hilarious.
Like those tender moments where he's like, I'm just looking for a father figure, and then it just goes batshit crazy in the next scene.
That could totally work.
Like, and then you're like missing reel, and then just stuff goes weird.
Well, if your father figure beats you at home, then I'll be that guy. Yeah. You little bastard.
Yeah, I mean, the feeling that show that we watched, Jay, is starting to influence a lot of your thinking.
Well, this one, it just felt like this is the play. If I'm going to pull that card, today's the day.
Yeah, well, it's like what was it? You reused like the one line from the ref, like, your father's not dead, he's hiding. He doesn't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, no, ever since Blood Drive came on the air, I'm like, I really want to do a Grindhouse remake, and this just felt like the movie to do it with.
It sort of does. Yeah. It sort of does. Because I think there's some bits of it, I think what really upset me is the fact that they kind of couched it in such reality, and I feel I could be more comfortable with the violence if it seemed absurd.
Yeah. Well, and Grindhouse I mean, I've seen plenty of Grindhouse where things are upsetting.
Yeah, but
they can still make the same points, but
I'd want this to be bizarre.
But you can distance yourself from it a bit at the same time.
Yeah. That's sort of what I think would be good.
Yeah. I mean, it gets really uncomfortable in that last 45 or so.
Yeah, not even that. It was really like the last 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes, half hour. It gets really uncomfortable. And it does a great job of amping up the tension.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that the dark school hallways and the call-outs and stuff like that, it's very, very powerful. And I mean, a lot of people have commented that it's really hard to tear your eyes away from this film because it grabs you, even though it's not particularly good in and of itself. It's well done enough that you don't notice what's missing.
And I would have liked to have seen more of Stegman's gang's conflict with some of the other gangs. Like there was the other...
Yeah, they have the one fight scene at the beginning.
Yeah, with the Black Gang. Yeah. And that was super stereotyped, I think.
Yeah,
which is a shame. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, especially in high school, it's very cliquey like that.
Yeah.
And, well, where's the Hispanic gang? And, like, what is the structure here in this world? And we only get a small glimpse of that, and then we really focus on his stuff. And it makes me wonder
more of them
why
being
that
the
was
alpha
there.
gang.
Yeah.
Because they really are the alpha gang, right?
Yeah.
Actually, interject
the
on this.
kingpin.
In class of 1999, I was reading how that one plays out, and with like the robot teachers, blah blah blah. But there are rival gangs in that school, and what happens was these like robot teachers try to incite a fight between these rival gangs to take out these students.
Oh,
And that's what class of 1999 has in it.
See, that could work really well
Right.
in this movie as well. It could be a device by Norris to try and get them under control. Is use art even, right, to say to go to one of the other gangs, say, hey, did you hear what Stegman's been saying about you guys? He says you guys are a bunch of pussies, that kind of thing. You could certainly use that as a way of Norris trying to address his issues with these guys by using a third party, because Norris goes off the rails too.
Oh yeah,
Right. For in that middle act, he's lost it.
But we should talk about Roddy McDowell's character.
Oh, yes.
Terry Corrigan, and yeah,
I get it.
He'd been there longer. He's basically just been keeping a blind eye. He
Keeping
kept
his head down,
keeping his head down, kept a gun in his briefcase. Like, it's a terrible job, and he's just barely keeping his head above water. At least with Norris's class, he's got several students with aptitude and showing interest, and poor Corrigan's just like, if I even had one student that showed remote interest in biology.
Yeah.
And it's a shame we didn't see him doing a little bit more in his class prior to the meltdown. Like,
That would have
to
been more
establish
interesting,
the
too.
classroom, because he's got all these animals that get hung up a little bit later on, because they walk him and Norris after school, after a kid accidentally drugged up kid climbs the flagpole and drops off and dies.
Yeah.
He's going to take Norris for a drink.
The drugged up kid who was brought into the principal's office when they're talking about drugs being dealt, and then the principal being like, oh yeah, well, we have no proof, and then at the end the kid dies. I'm like, I just kind of wanted one scene where Norris is like, you know who
What do
I
you
blame?
mean?
I blame you completely.
Yeah.
This kid died because of you. And then he walks away. Because he's like going, principal, I know you could do nothing. I get it. But
you're
quite
nothing
frankly, you're
resulted
responsible.
in this kid dying. So they were going to go off and have a drink, and I don't fucking blame them.
No.
And Arthur was there during the drug deal. And so him and Deneen are getting harassed in this alley by the gang. And thankfully, Norris and Corrigan show up. They get their ass handed to them.
Yes.
Yeah. But Deneen and Arthur get away in the melee.
Yeah. And Corrigan's like, this is what happens when you get involved. And he doesn't want to go to the hospital for that same reason.
Police in question.
Police in questions. Just keep his head down. And at that point, though, the gang's like, well, you got involved. And they kill all the animals in the biolab as a warning.
Yes.
Which, let's put it this way. When you're killing animals, that is a sign of a serial killer.
Yeah. And they used actual dead animals in that scene.
Some of the actors wouldn't go in because it was so silly.
Exactly. So when you see them standing out in the hallway, it's a reason for it, because they don't want to go in because it smells so bad.
Yeah, early 80s, they did stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they were like roadkill they picked up along the way, but
Yeah, here's hoping. Or they
Yeah.
just went to a butcher shop and be like, because, I mean, you can get rabbit from certain butcher shops.
yeah, no, I'm sure some of that was probably acquired that way.
But in the middle of summer,
Yeah.
no.
right?
Yeah, and how many
Under hot lights?
under hot lights? Yeah,
Yeah,
it would have
no.
gotten pretty rank pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, but yeah, heartbreaking scene.
yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking, and that's the most powerful moments in this movie were the Roddy McDowell's, and just to see that meltdown and how crushed he is by that moment, and just it
Yeah.
breaks him.
And the like, well, is the barbecue before this or after this?
It's after this.
Because I can't remember. And he's crying, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god, like
Yeah.
he's broken.
Yeah, he's absolutely broken. Norris is his friend at this point. I mean, they're the first two that
Well,
make a connection when
yeah.
he comes in to teach. So
Well, I think at this point, like Roddy McDowell, he's sort of really hanging on by a thread. I don't think he thinks he's going to retire. He's just trying to survive. He's like, either I retire or these people kill me.
yeah, and he talks about other teachers when they leave; they never come back
No.
for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's Norris is there to replace the old band teacher who
Fell downstairs.
fell down
Yeah.
the stairs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Quote unquote fell down the stairs.
yeah.
Of course he did.
But after that, it's just a meltdown, a complete meltdown.
Yeah, which I get. Like, I mean, these kids pushed him. I fucking get it.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, when he's doing that whole scene with the gun, I'm like going, well, they really are paying attention.
Yeah, no.
It's the first time you see fear on any of these young punks' face, which I kind of, this is what I think the movie does well, is you find yourself sort of reveling in the viciousness of the moment, even though you know you shouldn't.
Yeah, no, he's teaching the class, and they're all quiet and well behaved, and because they're all scared shitless, and everybody else is watching at the door when they hear what's going on, and you know he's going up, putting a gun to their mouth or their forehead, and asks them a question.
Yeah,
and for the most part, they know the answers. It takes them a while to get it out because they're scared like crazy, but they know the answers, which means that somewhere along the way they were paying attention.
Yeah, and somewhere osmosis happened, but still then it's like, why couldn't you just listen the first time? Didn't want to bring up my gun.
But my question is, why the fuck wasn't he arrested after that?
This was a weird thing. I don't know. The principal, he does the same thing with Norris, whereas technically they were going to charge Norris for assault.
Oh, he had a court date and everything,
because they're like, yeah, we found blood in your hands. But that's the weird thing, too. It's like two people in a room. He could have just found him and gotten the blood on his hands. But for some reason, that's a more concrete case.
Yeah, what happened with Norris, and just to break up your point there.
We haven't talked about that scene yet.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that scene. Norris confronts Stegman in the washroom and pushes him after the animals thing, and pushes him. And then Stegman just takes it much further and starts ramming his head into mirrors. And
he goes Ed Norton on Fight Club.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he goes, absolutely. That's a perfect analogy. He goes Ed Norton on Fight Club. That is awesome. Mm-hmm. And really bloodies himself up and then makes sure he smears some onto Norris's knuckles, which is a brilliant ploy.
Yeah, he's like really smart.
Yeah, brilliant ploy.
Yeah.
And so then they're like, well, you know, we can't like if I charge you with everything, like then I lose a teacher or something like that. He was not.
Mm-hmm. No, he said if I suspend you, I'll be short I'll be short a teacher. I can't afford to be short. So, but because he's being charged, they had to charge him. He has a court date and all that stuff. But
yeah, which is what brings in the detective.
Yeah,
and the weird thing is, detective. What I find really fascinating about this. He's already talked to the detective, and the detective has files on Stegman. Mm-hmm. Entire files. He is a juvenile. It's like, I can't give you names. But he knows Stegman has done all of these things.
He just can't prove it.
They're all documented.
Mm-hmm. But he doesn't have that.
But the problem
proof.
is, because he's a juvenile, it's sort of like, it's just one of those weird things where like going, yeah, but can't we really bring in all this? Like Stegman has had this stuff
and I can
happen.
see where that's a really rock and a hard place for a detective, because like, well,
he knows this
he's
kid
a juvenile,
bad.
so he's gonna just get out out of juvie court, and he'll get a slap on the wrist and 6 months community service or something. Like, they basically got to wait till he's 18.
And the worst part is like,
and even then they can't prosecute him for most of those crimes because they were done when he wasn't 18.
And the thing is, like, the detective is probably looking at this knowing that this is escalating. Mm-hmm. This kid is just escalating in his violence. He will be a murderer before he's 18.
Yeah. I mean, even the detective says, we got files full of drugs and graffiti and other violence, and he even mentions the word rape. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, holy Jesus.
Yeah, and see, that's the ridiculous part. I'm like, I'm sorry. This is why you sometimes charge juveniles as an adult. Because I'm sorry, when you are 16, you know the difference between right and fucking wrong. Yeah. You can't tell me you don't.
That's the other commentary that's happening here. Is not just is the toothlessness of the juvenile courts, right? Mm-hmm. It is toothless. There's no the punishments never fit the crime, or very rarely, unless they're tried as adults.
Mm-hmm. And then they're saying they're like, well, we just don't want to ruin a young person's life. What about the lives that they ruined? Mm-hmm. Like, why is their life so fucking important? They're an asshat. Deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand like a harsh upbringing, but sometimes you've just grown a psychopath, and there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
There's this one guy, he studies psychopaths, and it's kind of like, I don't know, there's not much you can do from what I understand.
Yeah. Well, and given what little we see of Stegman's home life, we figure he probably had a pretty decent home life. We don't see a father figure, though.
No, his father's gone, but his mother's very doting and enabling, and oh, he's such a precious angel. He could possibly not do anything wrong.
Well, he takes on a very different persona when he's around his mother too, right? Because he was when you see him,
he calls her mommy.
He calls her mommy. He's wearing like the polo shirt and
this is Bates
khakis.
Motel material, guys.
Yeah, she must go to work before he goes to school. Because, like, seriously, do you not know what he's dressing like?
Well, and can she not know when he comes home?
Yeah.
Like, your son probably comes home about 3 a.m. every night. You don't even bother to think about that?
Well, he's a good boy, so if he's out staying out that late,
he's not at fucking church, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's one of the flaws in the story. I mean, I like the dynamic. I like the way it's presented, but yeah, you'd have to show her earlier on to sort of establish that she really can't imagine that her son would be anything but what she wanted him to be.
Well, there's one line where she does pat him on the head. Well, that's the only school that would take you. So she knows there's been problems. She's just willingly ignorant.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah, but I'd like to establish that further earlier on, like maybe after the bathroom scene where he's all beat up and she comes in and you establish that she's really deliberately turning a blind eye to the worst parts of her child.
Wow.
Yeah. She could even say something like, this is just like at the last school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
At which point somebody has to point out, like, the common denominator is your son, ma'am.
Yeah. Right. But you could have some sort of dynamic there to establish that she's really the only thing she cares about is her son, and she doesn't care what he does. As far as she's concerned, she's always going to be his baby.
Yeah, I mean, she just makes up those excuses for him.
And you could have the whole thing, too, where, like, maybe in one of his previous, like, crimes, like, he was forced to go see a therapist, and he just tells her he keeps going, but he doesn't. She's like, well, he's been seeing somebody. He's getting better.
See, that would actually be excellent. That's maybe taking it more into the dramatic territory rather than the grindhouse, but it could work.
Well, you could grindhouse it in that he's killed his therapist.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
I like that.
Yeah, there we go.
And I wouldn't change a thing with Roddy McDowell scene.
No.
That was so good. And despite the fact he's free, he's not arrested.
They
gets
explain that, though. They explain why he's not arrested. They don't even involve the cops.
Well, they talk about like he's mentally ill.
Because I think they talk to the cop and say, gone through a bunch of stuff. He broke. He's on suspension because they do suspend him.
Yeah,
right. We'll get him to get some medical help and
instead he tries to run them down,
which was freaking awesome.
It was.
Yeah.
And Roddy McDowell was driving that car, by the way.
I read that.
Awesome.
That's insane.
So all that erratic driving and driving in other vehicles and just barely missing the kids, that was all Roddy.
And FYI, if he's on the front of your car, put on your seatbelt and ram into a wall at 80K.
Yeah, right?
You might die, but you'll take him with you.
Which is probably the point. He did die anyway.
Yes.
And eventually he just winds up flipping his car and it explodes.
Yeah, really bad.
That's such a movie moment. It's like, oh, man.
But if you're going grindhouse, that works then.
That still has to stay. Yeah.
And that's just it. All those really lame things that happen, I'm like, I love that stuff because in a grindhouse aspect, that would be really
But
amusing.
For grindhouse, I want it to blow up before it lands.
Yes. Well, I think that one actually wound up blowing up as when it hit the car, as it was ramping over. So it's already on fire when it flips.
and then when it flips is when it blows. When it lands on its back,
and then then the gas tank actually explodes. But it's not actually on fire at that point.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's perfect grindhouse moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? That whole scene just works great. So I wouldn't change a damn thing with it.
No.
But the setup actually is pretty intelligent when I was watching it, where it's like this guy just happened to move his car out and all these kids are in the way, so his car is stopped. And that's when that happens. I thought that was pretty good, really.
Yeah.
I would have liked it if he got one of them at least.
Yeah.
I know, because that would have been, you could have had that whole scene, he killed Barnyard and people, all these kids are so faux sad.
Well, and we could do something. We keep name dropping Blood Drive. But
sorry, there's a drive?
This is the last week we'll do that.
Well, we'll try.
We make no promises.
Yeah, we make no promises. But because one of the things, the reason I'm bringing it up is because, with that particular show, you keep sort of have this big cast of the of thugs and drivers and stuff that keep showing up. And for some reason, even though like tons of them are dead, there's still more.
Yeah,
right?
well, actually, my boss at work was like, "Have you been watching that show?" I'm like, "Yeah." How are there any racers left?
Yeah, and that's and I was kind of thinking that scene there where the gang could be larger. You could have ancillary members, like kind of like they do with the one kid who stabs Art, right?
Yeah.
So you could have some of those guys get killed off during this particular confrontation too, right?
Nice.
Where he runs them over and the limbs go flying everywhere and buckets of blood and
because you have people coming to want to work for them. So like, okay, kid, you're up, and then takes them on.
Yeah, and that could be part of the dynamic of that scene is they're sending off one of these a couple of these guys to do something for them, and they're the ones who get taken out. Mm-hmm. So you get that visceral violence, without taking out your core characters because they're essential to the end of the movie.
Yeah,
right?
You don't have your core 5 go, but you establish a bigger gang. Like I thought that little gang fight that they had. I'm like, oh, it's the 5 guys against another 5 guys. I'm like,
that needs to be much larger.
Yeah, that's not a gang. That's a few people hanging out.
Yeah,
I see that at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, and I don't know, like when you say to establish a more of a universe with other gangs, because that sort of seems weird. That scene sort of stands apart from the movie itself. It seems like a different movie. Is that just me?
Well, no, because the movie does have a bit of an identity crisis. Great writing, but there's a few scenes where you can tell I really want this scene. Mm-hmm. I don't care how it impacts the film, right? And that's that fight scene. That's also the last 20 minutes where you've got this incredibly over the top violence.
Yeah.
Right. When the rest of the movie's got moments of violence that are there to sort of shock you into.
Yeah, like he burns one guy.
I know.
In the saw scene. Oh my god. And then Stegman gets hanged.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and Patsy gets crushed by
another car.
I thought
indoors.
Indoors, yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah, and I mean, and then he essentially beats Barnyard to death before he even.
Yeah.
Right. He's almost beat to death before he gets run over by the car.
No, he gets up. He's beaten Barnyard. I think you gotta, if you're gonna grindhouse it, he's gotta beat Barnyard.
Yeah.
To death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before that happens.
Yeah, not this little small. What the hell thing? I guess it was a pipe at that point.
It was a pipe, but like...
Yeah, just get yourself, I don't know, a big jack or something.
Yeah. One of those big wrenches from Fast and the Furious that I don't know what they're for.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know they needs him to beat him to death, but beat him bloody like...
at least lose an eye.
Yeah, where he's barely hanging on and he stands up, and then the irony
Patsy
of...
driving
Yeah, the irony of her being the one who actually kills him is I really like that irony.
Yeah, they could go. Yeah, but like I want some more gore. On him.
Yeah, but it has to be clear that he is beaten. That he's done. There's no way that he's going.
If you go Grindhouse, you gotta go a little further with other scenes too. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I know.
I mean, that rape scene's already kind of disturbing and.
Especially considering it's a gang rape. It's not just a rape. It's a gang rape.
Yeah, it's a gang rape with juveniles. It's like, oof.
That's uncomfortable.
That one's uncomfortable, even though there's no nudity or anything in that scene. Initially, I was kind of like, because everybody's fully clothed, and I'm like, what's happening? Oh. Oh, this is... And she's taking pictures. Oh, this is... not cool. What the hell?
Yeah.
This is taking the whole Revenge Against the Teacher just a wee bit too far.
I know. I sort of, because of that, I wanted Patsy's death to be more violent.
Right?
Because I hated her so much.
Well, at that point, and that's where all those deaths are pretty justifiable at that point. Like, that breaks Norris. So he's about ready to take his students to this big moment for them, and he's handed these pictures seconds before he's gonna bring the orchestra up. It's like, oh my god, what a crushing scene. Like, most of that end I wouldn't change too much, just modernizing what it looks like.
Yeah, pretty much. Amping it up a little, just amping certain aspects up a little bit to bring it to that Grindhouse level
I would maybe bring some of that violence forward to earlier in the film, so we see other things that Stegman's doing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Instead of, sitting at a desk and saying no to these guys, like, okay, maybe somebody's been skimming and we see what he does to that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do see, I think the recruiting of the hooker is just so lecherous that we got to keep that in there.
Yes.
I do believe that, and it also it really establishes sort of somewhat.
I'm
Patsy
surprised
as well.
Fallon didn't screw right in front of them all.
Well,
But Patsy did go to watch.
Yeah, because it's one of those movies where the nudity isn't actually gratuitous. It serves a purpose.
It does.
yeah.
It does, and that's
It's her applying for a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the one thing I found it. Yeah, it was uncomfortable, but I found it acceptable because within the narrative, it makes perfect sense.
It really does. It establishes, their ruthlessness, and it serves a purpose, and that's a great way to establish that he is utterly ruthless when it comes to running his business and his gang. Yeah, I like the idea of sort of having him assign these offshoot gang members tasks and things to do. Is like, you need to go rough up this dealer on this corner. They've moved into our territory, right?
Yeah, and that's where things can get a little more gory and violent when we get to see some of that stuff. And I just want that gang war would have been fun to see a little bit larger scale.
Yeah, and that's another way you can bring those additional gangs into it too. Is these attacks on other gang members? Either we want to take some of their territory, or they've stepped into our territory. Right? That gives you more of that interaction. That is more. It's more than just this one gang, right?
Yeah.
Or this gang and a half.
I mean,
in school, right?
That doesn't step forward for very long. The poor Leroy, he's the drug dealer.
Yeah, well, he was traveling alone. That was his mistake.
Yeah, he was traveling alone, but I'm not sure why they did it, but why he in particular was overdubbed badly.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was such a weird scene. Again, adding that grindhouse, I'm like, maybe the guy didn't sound black enough? I don't know.
Yeah.
It just it was so odd to me. All of the black guys were dubbed over. It was so weird. And I'm like, what is happening here? And I could not find out why.
I can tell you why. Because they're Canadian actors.
Oh, they probably didn't sound black enough.
They probably didn't sound black enough.
Or what white people think black people sound like. That's just awful.
Yeah, it was
so
awful.
bad.
But I suspect that's exactly what it was. Is they sounded too articulate.
Again, lending to the grindhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for them to be a sort of
yes,
and going back
we're just too damn
the
small
class
in
of
Canada.
1999, that's I think they were going grindhouse that second film as well. So
I think
it
they
makes
were
sense.
embracing the stuff people were liking about this movie.
the stuff that got it banned in the UK. Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, they had trouble finding a U.S. distributor when this film was made because of the violence, and they had to cut some scenes back to keep from getting an X.
yep.
When they still issued out single X's.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah, now it's still NC-17.
Yeah.
Right?
They just changed what it means.
Yeah,
And
it has less.
the stigma is just slightly less.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still synonymous with crap.
Yeah.
Well, to me, just gratuitous stuff.
Yeah.
Like if I want to watch an NC-17 movie, it's like going, I got to prepare to be
Nauseated.
Yeah, pretty much. Nauseated or slightly titillated or just feel shame.
Yep.
Just overall shame that I am watching it.
Yeah. And as always, mildly uncomfortable.
Yeah, no
Shades of Grey, we're looking at you.
Yeah, no class 17 is what that classification is.
If you're going to make an erotic movie, actually make it erotic.
Yeah, try reading if you try reading the books.
Oh no, it's not. I am a literate reader.
Yeah.
So I want to read literate writers.
I know. I mean,
This is a quote by Jason, and
Yes.
not the views of all of our other public, and that's my opinion. Guarding my ass.
True. But to be fair,
I do not want to be sued.
I wrote better essays in high school.
Ooh, I want to read your essays.
I know, right? My diary.
Alone in a room with one light and a box of tissues.
Yeah, my high school diary probably reads better than 50 Shades of Grey.
I have no opinion on this because I've not read the books, nor will I, and I've seen portions of the movie, and it's more than enough.
Oh, the trailers are just god awful looking.
It's
As
so
I said,
bad.
I've seen portions of the movie.
Yeah.
What I do want to see is the spoof, though, 50 Shades of Black. That actually looks entertaining.
That I'd probably see.
that I watch.
Okay, let's get into casting, and we can maybe come up with some ideas along the way. Sam, you want to go first?
I'll go first. My casting was headed more towards the sort of dramatic feel that I was going with. So some of them will work still, some will probably not. I'm going to start with my Andrew. I went with Morris Chestnut, great actor, maybe a little older in his current age than you'd want, but he looks younger, so I figured he'd still work. For my Diane Norris, I went with Jamie Alexander. Okay. She's the lead in Blind Spot, and she's in the Thor movies as one of the Asgardians.
Okay.
For my Stegman, I went with an actor named Dylan Sprayberry. He's done a lot of stuff, but most recently he's been a regular on Teen Wolf. Great look. Easily go into that sort of punk new wave look, too, if you wanted to go that way.
Nice.
Really sort of classically handsome. Mm-hmm. For Drugstore, another person from Teen Wolf. It had another really lean guy, and he's got asymmetrical features, so it'll be a lot of fun, I think, to have somebody like that playing our drug addict, right? Because he has a really nice sort of slightly goofy, off-kilter look, but still not strange looking.
Awesome.
Fair.
For my Barnyard, I went with Caleb J. Thagard. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's kind of this sort of imposing looking guy. Now I can't remember what he was in that people remember. I wanted to sort of, he's like 6'1" and broad, and he's not thuggish looking, but he can play thuggish really well. Ender's Game he was in.
Okay.
So really capable of bringing that sort of slow thuggish look around. For my Fallon, I cast Evan Ross, and now I don't even remember where he's from. My bad. Okay. But yeah, sort of a muscular, fit, good-looking young actor.
We'll just guess Teen Wolf.
Our listeners have access to IMDb.
Yeah, so they can look and say, "Oh, yeah."
They can find out.
Now I'm going to go back to
Actually, if they look for it, they'll find out more about him and probably see stuff.
There we go. You might actually see some stuff with him. Yeah, exactly. For my Arthur, I went with Rico Rodriguez from Modern Family.
Oh,
right?
I love him.
Yeah, so do I. And he's he's getting older. He's in that late teens age, but he looks sort of that kind of unassuming guy that could be pushed to the edge. So I like him. For my Corrigan, this was a tough one, and I went, wait a minute. How about Rainn Wilson? Right? Because he does dramatic very well. A lot of people don't realize that he's not just a comedic actor.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could see him as sort of being this downtrodden biology teacher.
Yep.
Right. And it would be fun to see him move from that sort of guy who's given up to this guy who's completely broken now. Mm-hmm. Jay, you're going to love my Patsy. I went with Taylor Momsen because, well, why not?
There we go.
Right.
I am not comfortable with any of my...
I'm seeing that movie now.
Right,
there we go.
Because, she has that look. She kind of has that new wave punk look.
She does, yeah.
She already has it.
Dark
and I know she doesn't act anymore, but... If we talk to her, she could quite easily.
Be really, really nice to her,
and you can, and then
make her do the soundtrack.
Exactly,
there
I was going to say you could have add a new dynamic to it, right? Where Patsy is the house band, right?
Yeah,
and you could have Pretty Reckless as the house band in that scene, right? That's why I'm like, hey, this could work really well.
I like that.
And then I did cast a detective. It's an actor by the name of Brad William Hankey.
Okay.
And I usually put down notes as to where you've seen them because I've gone with a fairly obscure cast this time. But for life of me, I can't remember. But I'll come back to it. I'll look it up after while everybody else is doing their casting.
You're a terrible person, Sam.
I am a terrible person. But yeah, he looks...
It's only episode 102. It's not like you. It's the first time.
No, you're right. You know what? It took me an hour and a half to find my cast.
No, but that makes sense, Jason. This is the part where we start getting lazy.
That's right. It's been 2 years. As I made my mistake last week. Forgot to write down the director of the film.
Okay.
There we go. And then for my director, I went with Alex Garland, who directed... I am sorry, I am off this week, guys. You'll have to look him up. But he just directed some really great drama.
Didn't he do The Beach? No.
No, he's younger than that.
Okay.
More recent than that.
All right, Sam. Thanks for doing your homework.
Hour and a half casting. At least I cast all my key characters.
Okay. If they don't have a lot of lines, I didn't cast them, which means most of the gang didn't get cast.
Yeah, I did.
And I wanted to give the gang more dynamic. That was part of it too. Is have them have more dialogue, right?
Yeah, as they should. Yes.
Okay, now my cast. I don't know.
And I already know Trish didn't do her homework because she only had one cast when she walked in here.
I was trying so hard. I didn't. Well,
this was really hard to cast.
This is really hard. This is why I said "fuck you, Neil."
I did not. And the thing
I'm
is,
going to
like,
diddle that, by the way.
I didn't know what to do with this movie, so it was sort of just in my head violating me. I'll give you the first one that I cast actually while I was watching this is for Terry Corrigan. I went with Bryan Cranston because I was thinking, what happened if Breaking Bad went the other way? And he just got sad. I felt that's what would happen.
I like that.
Then he's just the dad from Malcolm in the Middle now.
No. In Malcolm in the Middle, he's still a fairly happy-go-lucky
That's
guy.
true, yeah.
This is a broken man. Yeah. And then for Norris was so hard because like Perry King is just...
This is my last one for me to cast too.
He's just the role. I went a little younger, but for idealism, I went with Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Okay,
because I think
we were kind of on the similar.
It's funny. I actually had him on my list as well, right? But I ended up not going with him. But
yeah, I think you can do idealistic. And then for Peter Stigman, when we were talking, I'm glad this actually kind of works out because if it's Grindhouse, I'm going to have old high schoolers. So,
well, it's just funny because most of the few students I cast are probably closer to the age than the actors were in the original movie. Yeah. I mean, even Michael J. Fox, as baby-faced as he is, was around 21 at the time. He looks 14, but...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's always looked young. He's blessed with the little baby looks.
Yep.
I went with, for Stigman, a Dane DeHaan, because he looks evil. He's like James Spader light.
Yeah.
James Spader Jr.
James Spader Jr., baby Spader. And then for the Barnyard, who's the muscle, I went with Evan Peters from American Horror Story.
Nice.
Another actor who was on my list, because I really like Evan Peters, but I think I used him fairly recently, so I kind of...
Well, I've noticed he's starting to look older in these later seasons, so I kind of stayed away from him. And for, like, I don't know, I didn't care. It could be, like, Fallon, Reject, anybody. I just cast Drake. I just feel just for Canadian content. Yeah. Drake, Degrassi Junior High. Drake should be in it. And then for Keith, I put Freddie Highmore as like the young guy who gets stabbed.
Art, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Freddie Highmore was somebody I was looking at too. I'm like, but there's so many.
That's interesting. He's on my list, but not in that role.
Yeah. Okay, and then Detective Stewinski, I put Philip Aiken. He was on a few seasons of Highlander. He's a Canadian actor. I quite like him.
Nice.
Principal Monahan, Ed O'Neill.
Yeah. You got to do Canadians, by the way, because it's Canadian movies. So I had to throw some Canadians in.
Exactly. Deneen, I had Jessica Lucas, who's also Canadian.
Nice.
And then for Diane Norris, I put Tatiana Maslany because I just really like her, and I want her to have a more active role in this film.
Yes, and I did cast my actress, my Diane as well, with the intent of having her less of a victim.
Yeah, like I'd like to see her more than just the supportive wife, and she just outside of just being a victim. Yeah, I wanted a little bit more there as well, and see her active in what she does as well. And like I didn't assume she was just the pregnant housewife.
And I didn't like. I don't want. They come in and just it turns into a rape scene. I want like a battle, sort of like a home invasion.
Yeah, which again
where
lends
she
itself
fights
well
back.
in our Grindhouse aspect. Even if you don't go Grindhouse, it still lends itself well to it.
Yeah, and then I didn't really had a direct. Did I give you my principal?
Go for it.
Ed O'Neill.
Nice.
I just feel he'd be that guy who would just be. I like him, and that's a Modern Family.
Yeah,
nice.
But I also really like your Keith too, so I don't know. I'm torn.
Yeah, I might defer to some of your students. There's actually some names I wrote down just to flesh out some of the student body in roles that maybe we'll come up with. For my... Oh, Jesus, I didn't actually put down a director. See, that's what happens when you have this many guys.
But when I'm thinking Grindhouse for Robert Rodriguez, I was kind of thinking it might be good for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who did Hobo with a Shotgun?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if I'd go with him. That was a little too much, but somewhere in between there is kind of what I'm looking for.
I'd go Cronenberg, but he wouldn't do Grindhouse.
No.
Try the Canadian director.
He would have a lot of body horror.
Yeah.
Actually, give Tatiana Maslany double-edged.
Keep it in mind what he's done as of late. He's done some pretty good crime movies as of late, so no body horror in sight.
Yeah.
He's mellowing in his old age. So yeah, I totally pooched my director. I can't believe it. See, didn't come with my homework either.
Yeah, there you go.
Sometimes with these challenges, it's hard.
Incomplete homework.
You were present but incomplete.
Yes, I'm present but incomplete. For my Andrew Norris, my star of the film, I went with Dylan Bruce from Orphan Black, American Gothic, most recently Midnight Texas. Oh. So lots of television. Nice. Good lead actor, and might kind of have that everyman look that that role might require, and in that mid-30s kind of range, which would be perfect for young teachers. So
just expecting their first child, and that's something I want to talk about after you've done your casting too.
Sure. And for his wife, I went with Emily Kinney, who played Beth in Walking Dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
she's good.
Yeah, and just a couple years younger than him, so also in her mid to early 30s there. For my Peter Stegman, that's where I put Freddie Highmore from Bates Motel, because I started thinking about that manipulator who doesn't get his hands dirty so much, the really smart guy who felt a little out of place within the gang, and I'm like, wow, if anybody who can play sociopath, it's the guy who played Norman Bates.
Nice.
So that's where I put him. I'm not 100% sold on him, but I kind of liked it in the grindhouse aspect where he's just getting other people to do his dirty work. For my Terry Corrigan, which is the other teacher in the film, which was originally Roddy McDowell, I went with Colin Cunningham. He was also from Falling Skies, most recently Blood Drive. He's Flink. And I like how he's very much those two different roles from Falling Skies and Blood Drive are very different. Makes him a very versatile actor. And I'd just like to see what he would do in that beaten down role a little bit, and then the meltdown.
Yeah. It would be, if you want to go grindhouse over the top meltdown, he's the guy.
He's definitely the guy. So that was the first one I had in mind. I still had half the movie to watch, and it was right after that gun scene or the driving scene where he's going to drive them all down, and I'm like, yeah, that's who I want in that role. That was the first one I had cast, and then it'd be another day before I cast another one. For my Arthur, I went with Maxim Knight. He was also a kid from Falling Skies. He's around 17 now, and just thought, he's more of the age group we were looking for. And for Deneen, who was the band leader of the students, she was one of the good students. I went with Haley Steinfeld from True Grit, probably the best actor in this whole cast. Mine.
She only won an Academy Award, so
yeah.
Also very musical too.
Yes,
so.
and she has albums. Yeah, she does have an album. So.
Yeah. For my Patsy, I went with Micah Monroe from It Follows.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the lead in It Follows. Because I was thinking Grindhouse, and I'm like, well, maybe certain characters might change in this situation. For my principal, I went with, and it was Principal Monothau. It was a really weird name. Morgenthau. And I went with Stephen Lang.
Nice.
Right?
Oh, I love that so much.
Anytime I mention Stephen Lang in anything, it's just going to be love, love, love.
But in this, absolutely.
Right?
Oh, my God.
I like that a lot. So it might change what the principal does.
I think it would. Oh, God.
I also liked this because I needed to throw some Canadians in here. I went with from my Detective Stewitsky, I went with lead singer of the Headstones, Hugh Dillon.
Nicely done.
Thank you very much. Star of Hardcore Logo, most recently The Expanse, and he did an episode of the new Twin Peaks recently as well. Accomplished actor, and again, be great for that punk kind of movement as well. If you wanted to throw a Headstones tune in there.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I was so proud of that one.
That is
you should
brilliant. I freaking love Hardcore Logo.
Yeah. And then for roles I didn't really have much thinking about, they're both actually from The Walking Dead. I wanted Chandler Riggs and Tyler James Williams in the movies because they're the right age, and like we can flesh out the student body in some regard. They could either be in the gang or in just as part of the student body if we wanted to make some new characters. But I thought they'd be good, and that's Carl and Noah from Walking Dead for people who are trying to replace them. So. And that's all I had, but I didn't cast specific band members except for Patsy and Stegman, but I'm still pretty happy with the cast I came up with and the amount of cast that was there. So, and
challenging just again because of that age, it's so hard to find actors that you recognize. That the problem is I don't want to go with the same actors every single week because especially in that age range, right? So Freddie Highmore, Nicholas Hoult, all those actors, we love them, right? But this is the kind of movie where you want to sort of take an actor who's kind of recognizable but not famous.
Yeah, that's why I kind of went with TV guys.
Yeah.
It's because I think they're a little more familiar to audiences, and at the same time, I haven't used them in movies. Yeah. And, you know, I probably actually have a little bit better sense of what they can do based on the shows I've watched them in. So, and they're probably, I've watched more of TV guys than I have in film that might have more actors in that age bracket. So
yeah, and I was wondering through just like I was doing Canadian actors,
and you do something like Grindhouse, they can have a little more fun. They can cut loose a little bit more and safer as actors, and it won't impact negatively on their careers if it flops because they're fairly secure in their TV gigs.
Yeah, and it's sort of just, it's a different way of approaching it. It's like, no, we're going for it. So.
Yeah, and, you know, generally actors who might want to start crossing over into film are more apt to take that risk, I think.
A very good example was Clooney in Dust to Dawn.
Yeah, that's a very good example.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's definitely right on that cusp of Grindhouse for sure. Right? And it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a really good movie, and it's a really good. And he took like a big chance with that role that was completely against type. So that was what he wanted to do.
Yeah, just put him back out there again, and look what he's doing now. Like, you know, he would never do From Dusk Till Dawn now.
No, because he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to.
Yeah, but you know what? He doesn't regret doing it. He said he had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah,
right.
And sometimes you just got to have fun.
Yeah.
Right. And it should be fun.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we'd have to do with this movie. Anybody on this movie would have to do is have fun. Right? Certainly, it's a dark film. It really is a dark film, but it can bring some element of fun into it, and still, like you said, have the messages about how ineffective youth justice systems are, about the whole violence in schools.
Yeah, I mean, you're exaggerating the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have kids like just completely...
Which is exactly what they did in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids completely out of control. No controls on them whatsoever. They're just pure id doing whatever they want.
Yeah. And only because they're smart enough to get away with it. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Or because the leader of their gang is smart enough to get away with it.
Yeah.
So and I mean, like I said, it was not a bad film. It had some odd moments.
Yeah. In that first hour, it was like, I'm trying to figure out whether I'm enjoying the film or not, and then that last half hour where it just goes off the rails, I'm like laughing at it, and I'm like just having a good time at that point. I'm like, okay, this is where you guys cut loose, and you're like, oh, we're not going to be that serious anymore. These guys obviously have to go down in very violent ways. I kept waiting for the redeeming moment that never came.
Well, I guess the one moment at the end...
I kept thinking it was a different type of movie, I guess, going in.
Yeah.
The one moment at the end with Stegman, I guess that was something they had to do because people wanted to see him get his comeuppance. Yeah. So they filmed it, I think they filmed it one of two ways, and then the one way that they kept was the one where he's still a bad guy, so he dies appropriately.
See, and that's one of the changes I would definitely make is I would have that because he's clearly like experiencing a mental break from at this point, right? He's become obsessed with Norris's character. I would almost like to see this sort of like over the top moment where he breaks and like starts calling Norris dad, and it's his wife is the one who takes him out.
Yeah,
right. Again, because we have that strong character, and she's pissed off now. She's like, you've been fucking with my family, and I'm done with you. And so you kind of have that moment of redemption, and then bam, out he goes through that skylight because the wife's just done with it. You're not fucking with my husband anymore. Not with this, not with anything.
Yeah. They're like, I can't save you. You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I really like the idea of her being the one that punches him.
Yeah. Or just coming out of like a pipe or something, like just
I love how
out.
that simple note changes the ending, because he had several different endings in mind when they made the movie. Of one where Norris actually pulls him back up, and one where the kid falls on his own, and then the one scene we have where he's trying to help him up, and then the kid tries to cut him, and then Norris punches him.
Yep. Rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. If you're going to try to cut me with a knife, I am going to punch you.
Either way, you're dying, right?
Either way.
You cut me, you die. I punch you, you die.
You've gone too far, kid. It's time to go.
But yeah, I like to show like how mentally broken this kid has become because of his obsession with Norris. Right? I think that would be a very Grindhouse too, right? Whereas like he's completely broken and he starts like blithering on about daddy and my daddy never loved me and you didn't love me and you never gave me a chance. Or you have all that kind of really poignant dialogue and offset by this sudden violence from his wife. I think it'd be really fun to see, actually.
That'd be good. Yeah, and like you can amp up this whole obsession throughout the film, like with like he's not so much trying to. You see the intimidation of Norris, but in some respects, it looks like he's just stalking him, trying to get attention.
Yeah, and that's what I'd really like to see here is that is sort of really take that little nugget of that need for approval and really blow it up. Right, where it's becomes so apparent to everybody, but Stegman himself, he doesn't even realize what he's doing until that very end there when he's completely broken.
Yeah, and you can have like little moments during the film where like his little gang is like, "Why are you so obsessed with this guy?"
That's just it. I think maybe in that regard, as he's starting to do that, where it's starting to impact on business a little bit. Like, why are we focused on this guy? We should be.
Yeah. We've lost territory to this other gang. What the hell's going on?
Because you're not focused on what you should be focused on.
Yeah.
And that could lead to some other, moment of violence where Stegman just, all right, you're questioning my morose and slit his throat or whatever.
Yeah.
Throw him in a pit of dogs.
Yeah, I mean, you can have.
Yeah, not all of the guys get killed by Norris. Yeah. One of them gets killed by Stegman.
Yeah. I could see him having like a pit of like wild dogs or something in his stupid punk building and just throw him in there and get just torn to shreds.
Actually, I don't really even see that. I see him like eviscerating someone and displaying it in the punk club and people thinking it's just decoration.
Oh, yeah, that's happened. I read somewhere about that where some Halloween decorations somebody thought was just Halloween decorations. It was a rotting corpse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we could say based on a true story.
Well,
anyway,
that's what they did. I read it somewhere, so it must be true.
Yeah. It was on the interwebs.
That's right. They said it. They said it at the beginning of the movie, so it's got to be true, right?
Yeah, but I was struggling with the direction. I was more inclined to go with a more dramatic direction, but after talking it through, and you're right, it's like those are a dime a dozen. But going the Grindhouse, it just it makes it into something new.
Yeah, why to go to the territory where it's been there a million times, and at least and that I think that's what people really enjoy about this movie more than anything else is that last half an hour, anyway. So
I think
let's just give it to them.
All the way through.
Yeah,
they want that vengeance. That's the thing.
Now you have the trauma film you thought it might have been.
Yes,
when you started watching it.
I mean, because if you look at the posters and cover for it, it even looks like a trauma cover, right? Like,
maybe I should just have Kaufman direct it. Mine. There you go. There's my director.
There we go. What was that other one? There's a one around the same time, Tough Turf or something like that, which is also very things out of control type of movie.
Yeah.
That was Warriors around that time.
Yeah. Warriors was around that time.
Oh, Warriors,
Band of the Hand was around that time, which wasn't really a gang movie, but kind of was.
I've had requests for us to remake Warriors a few times, and I've been hesitant. And now that we've done this one, now it's like, probably never.
I'm going
we've kind of
categorically say no on Warriors. It's in a class with Cuckoo's Nest and Peeping Tom, where you just don't mess with it because you can't improve it.
And that's kind of was what I said as well. I'm like, I don't know about that one.
Well, and it is what it is. Yeah. Like when you talk about the Warriors, people know exactly what you're referring to. It is its own animal.
Yeah, and it's very much a product of its time, and I don't think you can get out of it. Whereas this one, you could do a lot with it. You could modernize if you want, but I think it's probably best set in this weird what we think of 80s movies are kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just elevate it and take some of that grindhouse stuff.
Elevate it to the absurd.
Yeah, just make it really fun.
Like, just, make it, elevate it to the point where you're really enjoying the violence, and then halfway through you realize, ooh, I'm a terrible person. I shouldn't be enjoying this violence.
Given some of the subject matter of this film, and when the guy was first put on that blade and his arms cut off, I cheered in my house. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know. You're starting to question yourself, like, ooh.
Yeah, and that's why it worked to such great effect, because you hated these kids.
Yep.
You absolutely hated them.
Yeah.
Right. You actually wanted to see them die.
Yeah.
And you got to.
Oh yeah.
In a variety of different ways.
Yeah, because this movie kind of had that "what the fuck did I just watch" kind of feel when you finish watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to make sure that the remake has that same feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, you should come out of it going, "Whoa, I'm going to have to sleep on this if I can sleep."
Yeah, exactly.
If I can sleep,
I'm going to go home and pet my cat and call my mom. I need to know everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. Maybe not that bad.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a great opportunity for commentary on. I mean, violence in schools is still prevalent. It's very different now than it was when this movie was made, though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, they were wanting kids in this movie in 84. I mean, the film was shot in 82. I mean, that is just normal for American schools now. It's pretty abnormal for Canadian schools.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot of them that have metal detectors as of yet. But that's just been a part of what school is these days in the U.S.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are lots of reports of some pretty hideous things happening, and we're certainly more aware of the school shootings, but for whatever ludicrous reasons that people have for doing them. But yeah, it's...
There are lots of ludicrous reasons, but a major part of it is, I think
everybody's aware of that.
Well, they're aware of it, and I hate to say it, a large part of it is I want to be famous. I might have to die doing a school shooting, but my name people will know, and it's pathetic.
You've made a really valid point there. I mean, and we don't hear about the day-to-day violence either. I mean, we hear about these mass shootings and so on, but this is really focusing on bullying, individual violence against an individual person rather than against the school. And that's something that people don't talk about anymore. Right? Whereas in the early 80s, that was the focus: is this violence against the small scale violence versus the mass violence that we're subjected to now.
Yeah. This is very sort of dystopic. Like it's the revenge scenarios, like your death wish, your type of one man standing up against.
Yeah, we should talk just briefly about the through line of "I am the future." Like, they keep pushing that home in this movie. Stegman thinks like he is the future. This is he embodies what the world's going to look like.
Yeah, which plays more into that whole new wave thing rather than the punk thing we were talking about as well, right? Is because that whole future moving forward thing is very, very new wave versus punk, which is fuck the establishment, destroy it all. Right?
Yeah.
It's punk is very kind of in the moment. Yeah. It's a very now mentality, whereas new wave is like, we're just going to take over everything later.
Yeah. I know there's something I wanted to talk about while you were casting, and I waited, and I remembered what it was this time. Usually when I say, let's put a pin in that, I forget. But one thing is Norris's wife was pregnant all the way through the movie, and she suffers a horrific rape and all that stuff, and that's one thing that's never really talked about is what happens there. Does she lose the baby? All that stuff, and I think that's something that sort of needs to be addressed in a movie as well.
She's raped and cut and
brutalized.
Yeah.
And she's even punched in the stomach before they rape her, right? So that's something that really needs to be addressed, and that could be what the other thing that pushes her over the edge right? I mean, is she knows she's lost the baby,
Yeah.
and that's what pushes her over the edge, and she's the reason that. Or she's the one that does.
Oh yeah,
Stegman in.
well yeah, she could just be in pain, and we can see
she
blood
has-
come down her leg or something.
She has a fucking, like, this is the whole thing. She has the most reason to kill Stegman.
Yeah.
Because this is one of those things that I that happens a lot in films and kind of drives me a little bit fucking nuts. Is people will take vengeance on a guy by raping his wife, and it's sort of like, yes, I'll commit that emotional pain because apparently that's equivalent. Like, it's just, it's ridiculous. You're not attacking, you don't have the balls to attack the guy. So you go after somebody who's close to him. And it's sort of this, trying to do it by proxy. And in so many movies, this is what drives a man to gain vengeance. I'm like, no, like, why?
Yeah, no, she should get the final kill.
It's a horrible trope that needs to die.
Yeah, if Norris is killing off most of the gang members, he should leave that final moment for her.
Yeah, because she's the one who's been hurt the most by this whole thing.
that's
Like,
exactly it.
he's
That was-
lost a car? Big deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, and he's been physically brutalized, but not in a way, no way that she has, right?
No.
Right. And I mean, his motivation isn't. I mean, partially it's revenge, but mostly his motivation is to rescue her.
Yeah, that's...
Which I really liked is it wasn't rage because of what had happened to her. It was it's always like, where is my wife? Right? How do I get to her? How do I get my wife back?
But that's also part of it. There is an undercurrent of it.
There's an undercurrent of it, absolutely. But yeah, it's for him. I think if his wife had been raped and not taken away, they would have dealt it in a completely different manner.
Yeah, but I mean that also texts like how to have her have the final kill. That's the great part about it, because she's there.
Yeah. So yeah, and I just think that it would make it for a better ending just in general.
Yeah, because she's already there.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
And
sure.
it could also tell to, like, even after he's beaten down, that idiot still believes in redemption.
Yeah.
Like, he still believes, and then his wife's like, yeah, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
He doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
No.
Right, and that's I could see that being her rationale. No, he does not deserve redemption.
He was just going to become an evil leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, that was Neil's fan challenge. I think I enjoyed the movie.
I've seen the movie before a couple times, so I knew what I was getting into.
This was my first go around.
I've seen the cover. I forgot how much I really enjoy watching Perry King do stuff. That was what I enjoyed the most about this. Perry King and Roddy McDowell. I liked their friendship. I really did.
I did too.
Yeah,
it felt genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems like it was weird with Roddy McDowell and their friendship. It seems, I think he would have really gone off the rails a lot sooner, like having this new guy come in kind of saved him from drowning a lot earlier. Mm-hmm. And it was just, there's a whole other level of this movie that we hadn't really looked at.
Yeah, and
really
it
cool.
just doesn't give it enough time to explore. I mean, it's just roughly 90 minutes, is slightly longer, so.
Yeah, there's some bits about it that made me
Some things to get
uncomfortable,
shot.
but if we go absurd, I could probably, it'd be easier.
Yeah, it might be a little easier to digest. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I was really challenged with the whole idea of remaking this film because of the fact that it is very much a product of its time. Setting it into, like, making that type of movie today is challenging unless you set it in the same time as the original. I just don't see it working in a modern time, in modern times. Not without a lot of changes and completely changing the subtext of the film.
Yeah.
Right.
And I find Grindhouse just works better in a 70s, 80s setting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you add technology to this film, it's a totally different film.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you'd have cell phones to call for help. You'd have people taking photos of everything, including the fight.
Yeah, you would not have that end scene where there are no witnesses.
You'd have no witnesses.
Forensic technology is far more advanced than it was
There'd
in
be
the early 80s.
cameras in every hallway.
You might, but you'd have it on YouTube. Nobody would say who did it, though.
Yeah. They actually did have cameras in most of the hallways.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
The
But
principal was watching on his
harassment would be ongoing on Norris online as well, probably.
Yeah.
It would just be a completely different film that would not be... It would be harder to take, I think.
Yeah, no, it definitely simplifies things by keeping it period.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the subtext would be completely lost. It'd become a commentary about cyberbullying instead of...
Yeah, and, maybe that movie needs to be made, but this is not the one to do it. So
Yeah.
No. This can be done a different way.
Yeah. Besides, it's called the class of 1984.
Yeah.
You can't call it the class of 2084. We got a ways to go.
Yeah,
and then
that's
it'll
weird.
be just that weird sci-fi movie with teacher robots.
Yes.
Yeah. Or you have 2084 where...
Because 1999 was totally like that.
Well, you know how fashion loops around. It's 2084, but something bad has happened, so it's post-apocalyptic, but like that punk look. In the 80s fashion is what we end up in.
Everybody's gone back to Walkmans and magnetic tape.
Because we've seen all the post-apocalyptic movies. It's all big hair.
Yeah.
And crazy makeup. Where do you get that makeup when
I'm just
everything's
not
gone?
sure why, if everything's gone, hairspray is widely produced.
I know, like that volume.
Right.
I mean, if you can't wash your hair every day, which is going to happen, why is it not all slick, icky hair?
Or at least dreads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of dreads would probably make more sense.
I know. I couldn't understand that. A lot more shiny fabric.
Well, if you guys have an amazing fan challenge for us, and I'd say we've had every one of our fan challenges has been pretty amazing. We're pretty careful about which ones we pick as well. We're just not we don't take them willy-nilly. So you got to come up with something really interesting, and they got to be accessible for us and actually doable.
Yes.
In some way, shape, or form. We're pretty good. We've been able to maneuver around most of these, and we do tend to pick the tougher ones. The more challenging ones to do. So if you got some ideas, you can always submit those fan challenges to us. invasiontheremake@gmail.com. You can also do it on our social media at Invasion Remake on Twitter, and of course our Facebook page. Go like our page there, and that's of course Invasion of the Remake. And you can just leave your comments, questions, and suggestions as well in all those places. If you see us making posts on our social media, please share it out on your wall, as well as liking and putting those little hearts on Twitter. We really appreciate all that, but we could really help spread the word by retweeting and reposting on your social media walls.
You two tell two friends, they tell two friends, they tell two friends.
And
you know how it
so
works,
on,
and so on, and so on. You know how it works. And we'd like to see some of that.
And then the invasion is fully in swing.
That commercial, speaking of period time, that commercial was like 82, I think, too.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yes. And Trish.
Yes.
How do people get more earballs on the show?
Well, more earballs on the show. They share it out.
Yeah, well, I was trying to get her to do my lines because I didn't want to do it. But I'll do it.
They can go on. We're on so many different areas. Basically, you have to look hard not to find us. We're on Libsyn, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, TuneIn, iTunes, frickin' YouTube.
Nice.
I think I got most of them, and I'm missing.
You did pretty good.
You did pretty good. You missed a big one though. You missed Apple Podcasts.
Apple
Podcasts. Oh, see, because I said
That's-
iTunes, and I thought that covered it. Never mind.
Well, it kind of does in my mind, but in case you just upgraded your iOS,
It's a rebranding.
it's a rebranding. So we're on a ton of platforms and Spreaker as well. Just spread the word, tell people where to find us. And while you're over at iTunes and Apple Podcasts, how about dropping us a 5-star rating and a short review? That will really help us out as well and help other people figure out if it's a show they're going to dig or not. And maybe write it honestly. If you don't have 5 stars to give me 4. That's fine.
It's 4. And any less than that, nobody likes a tattletale.
Then it's just your opinion.
Just saying.
That's all right. I'm cool with an honest opinion out there, and the more ratings and reviews we have, the more people who can get their
Earballs
on the show. It's been a while since we did the earball thing, so I thought I'd revive it.
Yay!
Well,
there's been talk of earball stuff, wasn't there?
I don't know. I don't even know if it's doable or not, but we're going to figure it out. We were talking about maybe some earballs merchandise. Mm-hmm. Use your imaginations.
I think I have an idea, though.
Yeah. So if it's doable someday down the road, but way down the road, because we have no money.
None.
Yeah.
And if you're an advertiser, give me a shout. You heard it all on there.
Exactly. We like lots
talk.
of things. Mattresses, websites, food delivery.
I'm all about the food delivery.
Companies. We like lots of things.
But I won't plug you if I don't have it.
Yeah. We got to try it out. We got to know what we're saying.
That's right. I'm also not going to pitch
something we don't believe in.
Yeah, something we don't believe in. That's a definite thing. So, hey, if you send me a mattress and it sucks, I'm not advertising for you. I'm sorry. No matter how many podcasts you're on, I'm not a whore.
At least not that kind of whore.
No.
I know, and they sent you a mattress, and you're still not a whore, so that's pretty good. I mean that's whore equipment. You still won't do it.
That's right. No, I at least need some more bondage gear.
A swing of some kind.
Yeah, I'm not going to advertise for those. So just you can send it to me, but I'm not going to advertise for you.
I don't know. It depends if they have really good stuff.
I'll let you cut that promo.
Okay, I'm down.
Well,
sexual positivity, everybody.
Woo. That was Class of 1984 from 1982.
Yeah.
This was a good challenge. Thanks, Neil, for submitting this, and much appreciated. No matter how much I said "fuck you" for it,
yeah.
But I know you'll make me pay for that later,
for sure.
All right, well, that's it. I've been Jason.
I'm always Sam.
I will continue to be Trish, as far as I know.
Excellent. Well, I'm giving everybody a passing grade. We are out of here.
You've got to learn. Life is pain. Pain is everything. You will learn.